have some more updates on our lead story, which is the violence in Benue State. News just in says global security watchdog Amnesty International is asking the federal government to end the spate of killings by herdsmen across the country. The director of Amnesty International in Nigeria, Mr. Osai Ojugo, explains that though the clashes have been going on for years, there has been a disturbing escalation in the bloodshed since the start of this year. He wants government to make better use of its resources to bring the perpetrators of this attack to justice. Mr. Ojugo adds that no one has ever been held to account for the many murders committed during the clashes and that the pattern of the attacks and reprisals are reaching a boiling point because of the failure of authorities to carry out investigation and end the rampant impunity for previous crimes. Amnesty International says more than 57 people have been killed in Benue State alone since January this year. In a bid to ensure that the 2018 budget is passed as soon as possible, ministers and heads of government agencies have been advised to appear before federal lawmakers to defend their budget estimate. Our correspondent Larry Lasisi reports that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, mentioned this after appearing before a committee of the House to defend the budget of his office.
It's that time of the year when ministries, departments and agencies come before committees of the National Assembly to defend their budget proposals in the budget under focus. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation is here with other senior government officials to appear before the House Committee on Governmental Affairs. He starts with the performance of the 2017 budget, and as usual, the issue of inadequate releases of funds come up.
We got to 50% this year. I think it's a leap. We hope that in 2018 we should be between 70, 80 and 90% in terms of releases. That's the only way the budget can be meaningful and effective in its implementation. We will take note of that and follow it up, sir.
Going through the proposed 2018 budget, the lawmakers make some observations.
Your first item from your first information in 2017, it has stated that this job has been completed and payment was made and release was done to the beneficiary, the contractor. However, in 2018, you still repeat the same project and also add more money to that.
Yes, it's an annual maintenance. It's an we are doing an upgrade.
Yeah.
What we have been able to achieve now is just with the audio. We are now going to go further with the video. So that the two aspects are synchronized to make the working of the council chamber very effective.
Speaking after the hearing, the Secretary to the Government makes it clear that the executive would like the budget to be passed as soon as possible.
We have encouraged all cabinet ministers to make sure that they come for their budget defense. I was given today's date. I didn't ask for an extension in spite of other commitments because this is very, very important. If the government is desirous in ensuring that the budget is passed within the month of January, then all officers of government should also attach a lot of importance to this work and ensure that it is thoroughly done.
Officials of the National Lottery Regulatory Commission also appear before the Committee on Governmental Affairs for their defense session, while the House Committee on Niger Delta has advised the Special Advisor to the President on Amnesty to provide relevant documents to the Committee on the 2017 budget performance of the agency for a proper budget defense session. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
To legal matters now, the Federal High Court in Abuja has granted the Department of State Services permission to detain more than 400 Boko Haram suspects at the Kanji detention camp for an additional 90 days, which will expire on April the 10th. The court also ordered the DSS to produce 4 other suspected Boko Haram leaders before it on April the 10th and to move the 4 persons in Kanji detention camp to the DSS facility in Abuja. The 4 terrorists were found culpable during the screening exercise carried out by the court and were recommended for arraignment before a proper court of justice. And still on legal matters, the Federal High Court in Lagos has ordered a former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Productivity, Dr. Clement Onubogu, to permanently forfeit the sums of 664 million naira and $138,000 to the federal government. Justice Saliu Seidu granted the order at the resumed trial of the former permanent secretary today on the charges of illegally diverting the monies while he was supervising many programs of the Subsidy Reinvestment and Empowerment Program, SURE-P. The former PAMSEC did not contest the forfeiture of the monies as he had opted for an out-of-court settlement with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission prosecuting him for these offences. The Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, has commended the presidency on the way it handled the security situation in his state, especially for not being political about it. But he wants more from security agencies and is asking them to go after gang leaders who, according to him, are still engaged in violent crimes. Our correspondent Emmanuel Ray tells us more.
The sad faces of the victims of recent killings in Ogba Egbema Undoni local government area of Rivers State summarize the pain and anguish that prevailed in the communities when the alleged mass murderer and cultist Don Wani held sway in the area. His home is now desolate, and the alleged murderous gang has come to the end of the road through the intelligence operations of the DSS and the army. The Rivers State Governor is pleased with the development.
We are deeply worried when our investment in security are deliberately prevented from yielding the desired results due largely to a recurrent tendency to politicize the federally controlled security agencies and services in the state. This is the reason we must thank Mr. President for doing things differently, and with the support of all, a different result has been achieved.
He also seeks an end to some other alleged cult leaders.
Based on reliable information by the security agencies, I hereby direct them to immediately arrest and prosecute the undermentioned persons who have either reneged on the terms of amnesty and or refuse to embrace same by continuing with cultism, kidnapping, and armed robbery in the state. We reiterate our zero tolerance for all forms of criminality and reassure our residents of our determination to be tough with those who choose to violate our criminal laws and undermine peace and security in the state.
Residents of the state say they want the security agencies to stay proactive and rid their communities of all dangerous and heartless humans. Emmanuel Ere, Channels Television News.
The Nigeria Labour Congress is asking teachers to hold Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State responsible for any breakdown of law and order in the state. The president of the NLC, Comrade Ayuba Waba, says the union will begin a series of actions with the first phase of protest in Kaduna taking place on Thursday, January the 11th. He explains that the recent sack of about 36,000 workers in the state from the public service was already causing tension, and he will not allow this to continue. In the meantime, the Kaduna State government has something to say about that. They are threatening to sanction any public primary school teacher participating in the ongoing strike by the state chapter of the Nigeria Union of Teachers. A statement from the permanent representative in the Kaduna State Universal Basic Education Board, Shehu Sani Othman, says government will invoke the policy of no work, no pay against any teacher that fails to report to duty. According to him, registers will be opened in all primary schools to take attendance of teachers who resumed work.
We directed all the education secretaries in the state to go around and ascertain the resumption. And of course, the report has been positive. Teachers have willingly resumed their duties, but unfortunately, the members of the union go around the schools to disperse the teachers, and they are disrupting teaching and learning, which is against the norms of the society. And we are using this opportunity to inform all the union members and the erring teachers that refuse to resume that the government is ready to take action, and of course, this situation will be dealt with according to the law-abiding civil service.
We have some good news coming from the World Bank. They expect Nigeria's economy to expand, and will be giving us the numbers on Business News.
You first. First Bank.
That's very true, Melinda, and that expansion is expected to hit 2.5% this year, up from 1% which was achieved in 2017, with the hope that oil production will continue to recover and reforms will drive investments and trade. According to its January 2018 Global Economic Prospect Report launched today in Washington, D.C., Nigeria's gross domestic product is expected to grow to 2.8% in 2019 and in 2020. The Bretton Woods Institution says that growth in sub-Saharan Africa will increase to 3.2% in 2018 and 3.5% in 2019 on the back of firming commodity prices, while global economic growth is forecast at 3.1% for the year. The World Bank also wants policymakers around the world to focus on human investments to help increase their country's productivity and end extreme poverty. The federal government has ordered vendors of ministries, departments and agencies to display their tax identification numbers on their invoices before payments are effected by the MDAs. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, gave this directive today in Abuja to the Accountants General of the Federation, Mr. Ahmed Idris. The order is part of efforts by the government to block revenue leakages after about 100 billion naira was discovered as tax revenue shortfall by contractors between 2012 and 2017. Brent crude oil today touched $69 per barrel. That's its highest since May 2015, supported by OPEC-led production cuts, expectations of lower U.S. crude inventories, and unrest in OPEC's third largest producer, and that's Iran. The international crude prices benchmark rose to $68.73 a barrel today. And as for U.S. crude futures, they rose to $63.19 a barrel, their highest level since December 10, 2014. Now let's find out another milestone achieved today. The Nigerian stock market hit a fresh 4-year high after crossing a new threshold of the first time since October 2014. Chimezie Obiwago has more for us.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The upward trend in Nigeria's stock markets continued this Tuesday, with the all-share index finally crossing the 40,000 mark threshold, up 1.29%. Proceedings started rather slowly but gradually picked up at midday. Just 30 minutes to the close of trading, the index topped 40,000. All the sectoral indices gained except consumer goods. Banking gained more, and that sector was a major contributor to today's positive performance. This is because investors believe banking stocks will give them better value for their money, as they expect dividend payment by the time earnings are released, and they also think the value will be sustained. Market breadth remains bullish, as 46 gainers were recorded against 7 losers. Today's transaction volume was much higher against Monday's session, but the value dropped about 8 billion naira. Traders believe that as the week rolls by, the tempo will drop, particularly on Friday, when more profit-taking is expected. And that was the Stock Market Report. I'm Chimezie Obiwago.
And as for major stock markets around the world, they ended today's session with more rally across board as investors are reacting to better than expected economic data, and they remain optimistic about the market heading into the corporate earnings season. Let's check out the numbers for today. that, we end Business News for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Melinda.
You first. First Bank.
Many thanks, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10. Nigeria's Super Falcons to face Benin Republic, Togo and Senegal in the group phase of the Maiden Women's Waffle Cup in Côte d'Ivoire. That's on Sports News. Join us again.